It's strange how quickly your life can change. One minute you're laughing with colleagues, sipping on champagne, proud of the woman at your side. The next your heart is shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. The company's annual gala was always a big deal. Patricia, my wife of 7 years, was radiant that night. Dressed in a deep sapphire gown that shimmered like stars under the ballroom lights, she turned heads. I was proud to be her husband. But now I realize I was the fool in the room. I should have seen the signs: late nights at work, subtle mood swings, a certain coldness creeping into her voice. But I loved her more than I loved myself. I trusted her blindly with every part of me. So when I turned from the refreshment table and saw Patricia wrapped around Harris Miller, her boss, their lips locked, their hands wandering, right in the middle of the patio under soft string lights, something inside me died. The world didn't slow down. It didn't dramatize the moment. It just kept going. A couple laughed behind me. The string quartet played. The city lights flickered in the distance, but I stood frozen, forgotten by time. I didn't scream. I didn't shout. I didn't rush over to tear them apart. Instead, I watched. I wanted to be sure, because some things in life should only be seen once. You don't want replays. You don't want echoes. You just want certainty. Patricia saw me. Our eyes locked. Her smile faltered, and then panic spread across her face like wildfire. Harris didn't notice at first. He just kept whispering into her ear, his hand still on her waist. Then he turned and smirked. That smirk. That's when I left. But Patricia came home later that night. The front door creaked open around 2 a.m. and I was already sitting on the living room couch in the dark, the faint glow of a lamp casting long shadows on the walls. She walked in barefoot, heels in one hand, her makeup smudged, her eyes swollen. "Mike," she whispered, voice trembling. She dropped her heels and fell to her knees in front of me. "Please, just let me explain. It wasn't what it looked like. It was a mistake, a horrible, stupid mistake." I said nothing. She sobbed into her hands, then reached for mine. I flinched. "Do you know what it feels like to see the man you love looking at you like you're nothing? Like you disgust him?" She cried. I looked down at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt pity. "Do you know what it feels like," I finally said, "to look at the woman you built your life around and realize you never truly knew her?" She wept louder, clinging to my leg like a child begging a parent. "I'll quit my job. I'll block him. I'll do anything, Mike. Please, please don't give up on us." But her words rang hollow. I had seen her choose him. Not once, not in secret, but brazenly, publicly, shamelessly. That kind of betrayal doesn't dissolve with tears. I stood, gently prying her hands off me. "You made your choice, Patricia, and now I'm making mine." I went upstairs, packed a small bag, and walked out. She was still sobbing on the floor as I closed the door behind me. I didn't sleep that night. I drove until dawn, parking at a gas station on the outskirts of the city. Staring at the empty road, I tried to breathe, tried to process, tried to survive. But after sitting there for what felt like hours, I realized I couldn't just sleep in my car. I needed a place to hide, to be invisible, even just for a night. So I pulled out my phone and searched for the nearest 24-hour hotel. It was a modest place, nothing fancy, just a faded sign and a flickering neon vacancy light. The front desk clerk didn't ask questions, just slid me a key card after I paid in cash. Room 214. The room was stale with old cigarette smoke, the curtains too heavy, the bed too stiff. But I didn't care. I stood under the shower until the water ran cold, then collapsed on the bed in damp clothes, staring at the cracked ceiling tiles. The silence was deafening, and still my mind screamed. Images of her lips on his. The way her fingers curled around his tie, that smirk. I buried my face into the pillow and screamed. Not for her, not even for him, but for the man I used to be. The one who believed in forever, the one who believed her smile meant love. I thought about confronting her, about yelling, accusing, crying. But what was the point? The damage was done. Words wouldn't glue the pieces back together. For weeks, I existed in a fog. The house, our home, felt like a graveyard. Every room whispered memories. The couch where we binge-watched shows. The kitchen where she danced barefoot. The bed where lies were told. Eventually, I left, took a leave from work, disconnected from everything. I needed space. I needed silence. I needed to find Mike again. The Mike who laughed without bitterness, who believed in love, who wasn't just a shadow of betrayal. At first, I kept my phone on, foolishly hoping for silence, but instead it exploded with calls and messages. Patricia texted me daily, long-winded apologies, voice notes through tears, pleading for another chance. She even had her sister call, then her mother. My parents, too, tried to mediate. Friends who'd once laughed with us over dinner now acted like diplomats, urging me to forgive, to heal, to reconcile. But they didn't understand. They hadn't seen what I saw. They didn't feel the rupture in my soul when I watched the person I trusted most choose someone else, in public, without shame. What I needed wasn't their pity or pressure. I needed distance. And when I realized they were only dragging me back into a storm I had barely crawled out of, I changed my number, deleted social media, moved my things into storage. I became a ghost to everyone who knew me. I wasn't running away, I was choosing myself. For once, I was choosing silence over chaos, peace over pretense. Let them wonder where I went, let them speculate. I was done explaining my pain to people who only wanted to rearrange it into something palatable. And that's when I found it. The house. On the edge of town stood an abandoned Victorian house. Cracked windows, a sagging roof, vines choking the porch. Most people saw decay. I saw myself. I bought it with what savings I had left. Everyone thought I was crazy. Even the real estate agent looked confused when I signed the papers. But I needed something to pour myself into. Something to rebuild because I couldn't rebuild my marriage. The first days were brutal. The rot was deep, mold, rust, years of neglect. I bled, I broke bones, I cried, but I kept going. And as I tore down walls and replaced beams, something shifted inside me. The pain didn't vanish, but it became a tool, a chisel that reshaped me. I started waking up with purpose. That was also around the time I contacted a divorce attorney. Not out of spite, not to hurt Patricia, but to finally close a chapter that could never be rewritten. The first meeting was surreal. Sterile office, polished table, soft-spoken woman in a gray suit who listened without judgment. I handed her the signed documents I'd been carrying for weeks, sealed in a manila envelope that felt heavier than bricks. "Are you sure you want to proceed?" she asked gently. I nodded. I've never been more certain of anything. She told me the steps, the timeline, the expected resistance. And resistance came. Patricia refused at first, then begged, then threatened to delay it. But eventually even she understood. Some fractures are too deep to fill. I stopped replying that night. I wasn't just rebuilding a house. I was rebuilding my identity. And that meant letting go of the woman who'd helped tear it down. I began becoming someone new. Months passed. The house began to breathe again. Fresh paint, polished floors, sunlight streaming through new windows. That's when she showed up. Patricia. She stood on the porch like a ghost, her eyes wide, her lips trembling. She had heard about the house through mutual friends, about my project, about how I disappeared and reemerged a different man. "Mike, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Harris meant nothing. It was a moment of weakness. I miss you. I miss us." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just let her speak. And when she was done, I looked around the house. My house. Every beam, every nail, every inch of it held a part of me. "You see this place?" I said. "This house was broken. Everyone said it wasn't worth saving. But I saw value. I saw potential. So I rebuilt it." I looked her in the eyes. "I gave you 7 years. I loved you with every part of me. But you looked at me, like this house, and you walked away. You chose rot. You chose decay." She sobbed. She begged. But I closed the door. Revenge isn't always loud. It's not always fire and fury. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's healing so completely that those who broke you can't even recognize who you've become. I didn't burn her pictures. I didn't post about her betrayal. I let time do what time does best. Reveal the truth. Harris? He got demoted 6 months later for workplace misconduct. Turns out Patricia wasn't the only one. Patricia? Last I heard, she moved to a smaller town. Took a job far below her potential. She doesn't smile the way she used to. And me? I now run a restoration business. That house was just the beginning. I fix what others throw away. I rebuild. I breathe life back into forgotten things, because I know how it feels to be broken, to be left behind, to be underestimated, but I also know how it feels to rise, to reclaim, to become the storm after the silence.